which is now a very senior secondary school of repute. In fact, it was voted as the most innovative school of the year during the pandemic. And a book was published by ma'am titled Rising to Challenges as an ode to the teachers who adapted and excelled in the hybrid. I should also refer to the webinar that we had conducted with ma'am, where we spoke about technology in education. She spoke about the various interventions about technology, what are the things that we should take care of, how technology can help, but also the flip side as well, about how technology can actually cause damage as well and how we should keep that balance. So it was extremely insightful, and we thought ma'am should definitely share her story with her today as to how she started, what are the challenges she faced, and how she overcame them, so that we can all take a few nuggets of learning from that. So over to you, ARADHANA ma'am. This will be a session for about 20 minutes, and in the last 5-10 minutes, we'll open it. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, and very good evening to all this, very active mind audience here. I love to speak on such forums where educationists, come. And first of all, I must compliment you on the title that you've given. I love this title, Chalk and Chai. So very appropriate. Sharing my life story seems like, as if one has reached some kind of pinnacle. It's not like that at all. I'm somebody who has come to this level by default in my life. And I think my story is inspirational because of all the things I became by default. So the first lesson when I look back on life, when I look at how things came around, the first lesson I think I myself learned from life is that expect the unexpected and make the best of whatever you get. Life never serves you what you want. But what life serves you, I think there's some power which decides your destiny, and what it serves you, it's up to you to make the best out of it. So I'll tell you a little brief about my life journey, and you can derive your own conclusions, and probably learn by experiences about life itself. I was a very bright student right from the beginning, yes, but never a leader. I have never held positions of, school prefect or, college, anything. I was a very hardworking student, and somehow I got through the, best colleges, a very good school. So that was a blessing to me. But I did my master's in nutrition thinking that I would, become a nutritionist. I was almost sure that I would never not stay in India. My life would be in America. And that is why I took up this course, so that, because dietitians are highly valued there. But then, destiny has other plans. And after I finished my MSc, I started my PhD, and this man came along and I married an army officer. So that put a stop to all my dreams of going to America, and one stayed here. Now in the army, I don't know if anybody is from the army background here, but army takes you to the smallest of places in India. I was totally a Delhi girl and only city bred. And then one learned to go around in the tiniest of places, in almost villages, learned to adjust in almost hutment kind of accommodation. And as far as the career was concerned, there was nothing that I could do with my degree, because what I had qualified in is applicable more to colleges. There was hardly a college where I went. So by default, I became a teacher. Since I had studied so much, I thought I wouldn't just become a housewife, I must do something. So in the army, when you go to these smaller places, English teachers are always at a premium, because you don't get people who speak good English. So my asset was speaking English well, because I had studied from good schools and colleges. So right from the beginning, I got English to teach. So that is how English came into my life. And gradually, for about 20 odd years, I taught English at various levels. Now also let me tell you, I had studied English only up to class 11. I had not studied English in college because I was a science student, so English was not a subject there. Now, from this background, I started to learn English. learn English basics, grammar. Of course, one could speak English, but I did not know what a phrase and clause was, because in 11th we never did grammar. So this journey became more and more interesting. I fell in love with the language, and then gradually one graduated to a bit administrative positions, so became a principal of some school. So you go from place to place, and everywhere you get a different job. So I practically taught classes from nursery to college. Now, this experience of life, I think, held me in good stead. When you run a school, I think the people who are most successful at running schools are the ones who have climbed up the ladder. People who have had no experience in teaching rarely become good administrators in schools, because you don't understand the problems of teachers, you don't understand the way students think. So this 25 years of this journey of teaching practically every class, today when I run a school, I know the pulse of each class because I know what it entails. So that is very important for an administrator or when you run a school. So all this happened. Now all this journey that I took, somehow I always felt that we were very, very bogged down by the ideas which were given to us. In school teaching, there is very little scope for innovation. If I wanted to teach the subject in a different way, I was almost never allowed to. Maybe I taught in schools, wherever army takes you, you have army schools, you have very set patterns. You're supposed to teach a certain way, and then you are supposed to assess a certain way. I was sort of always a rebel, and I wanted to do something more. And that is how gradually I became bored of teaching. That's another, now I'll intercept this and tell you. And this is what now when I'm running a school, I don't want my teachers to get bored of teaching. Any teacher who is made to do the same thing year after year will eventually get very bored of teaching. And that is where, I think education stops, learning stops. So when I was at a stage, I was teaching, in a particular school, I suddenly got, this thing that my ideas were not getting implemented. I knew I had fantastic ideas. And these ideas, I must tell you today, what you call flip learning and experiential learning. I wanted to implement these ideas 20 years ago. And I didn't know the terms. I didn't know what they were called. But common sense told me that a student cannot learn when you teach. A student can only learn when he is allowed to learn. We are taking away the joy of discovery from students. So I used to encourage, a lot of teachers to give a little bit of, say, a driving question to the students. Ask them, find out answers, ask questions, and then guide them through a discovery process. In my teaching also, I've never given notes. I've never, taught them like what I want them to learn. It should come from them because as far as I understood, a little child, how does he get most happy? When he has discovered something himself. You all must have raised children. Now, what do they say? What do they say when they're happy? Apne aap. When the child, you want to feed the child wants to hold the spoon and have it apne aap. When the child puts his first morsel in the mouth by himself, he feels he's achieved something. Now, taking this forward into classrooms, I feel this was, what students enjoyed most. So whenever I did try this kind of thing, there was a lot of rebellion, from the school, from the management, that you have not, taught according to lessons. And this is exactly what I do in the schools, tell the teachers not to teach from lessons, not to carry books. The teacher should impart his or her personality to the class. So this is something that was boring me, and one fine day I had a permanent job, and when I resigned, a lot of people asked me, people don't get permanent jobs, and in army school actually it's very difficult to become permanent. So why are you leaving? I said my heart is not into it anymore. So that is how I came out of it, and I started my Spoken English Institute, where by now I thought, I had gained that kind of confidence in English. So since I was teaching in the institute, I was teaching adults and anybody who cared to learn English. I was giving them a lot of worksheets to do. And then I realized that every year I can't go on doing this thing. So that is where the idea of writing a book generated. Now also when I started, in writing, in my mind, writing was like writing a book. So I took all these worksheets and I wrote. Now at that point of time, I did not know computers at all. I did not know ABC of typing. So I just sat on the computer and typed with one finger. Those of you who have learnt computers in later years will understand the pain of, learning computers like this. So with one finger like this, I wrote 400 pages. And after writing, of course, editing, formatting, all that I learnt along the way. After writing, these many pages, I took it on a CD and I went to a printer. I said, I want to publish a book. I knew nothing about publishing. I knew nothing about how books are written. So I told him, I said, now print this book, and this is my first published book. This printer laughed at me. He says, Madam, ऐसा कोई book लिखता है क्या? You brought me a CD and you're telling me to print a book. ऐसे नहीं होता है. Book को page maker में लिखा जाता है. Now, I did not know what PageMaker was, so I told him, I was almost in tears. I said, I've spent, almost 8 months of, practically about, I think, 14 to 15 hours of work I put in. And then he said my book could not be printed. So, seeing my face, he was very moved. So he says, Madam, PageMaker hota hai, aap learn karke aaiye. So I said, will you teach me? So he said, yeah, but I don't know the technicalities. I said, doesn't matter. We will learn together and I will teach you some, you teach me some. So I sat in his, 4x4 office and I learned how to do PageMaker. Some I experimented and then I put the book on PageMaker. It took me another 2-3 months. And then again I took it to him and I said, okay, publish. Then when he gave me the rates of publishing and printing, they were so high, I couldn't afford it. So he says, aap pages kam kar dijiye. So in my first book, the 400 pages, I condensed to 250 pages. So you can imagine what the book looked like. And but it was, the material wise, it was a wonderful book for spoken English. So I said, okay, print, and I got about 1,000 copies printed. And then I didn't realize that 1,000 copies meant so much. So they came into my house and filled my room. And then I didn't know what to do with them because who would read them? Because my students were hardly 30, 40, 50 a session. So then I went about selling the books. So I went school to school and college to college. Now, this is what taught me interpersonal relationships, how to sell, how to, get across to people. So it taught me a lot this whole journey. Anyway, that book gradually became a success. And I was, very enthused to write more. So then during this journey, I realized that you need a publisher for a book. And I went to Delhi, I found a publisher. So then the publisher published the book and it went into many editions. Then after about 4-5 years, my husband retired and he came and he said, let's start something. And we started the Icon Public School. Both of us started. Now, he was not an educationist. He was an administrator, good, from the army, always good administrators. So we started this school and I closed down my institute because I didn't have time for it. Now, when I came to school, I thought I must write for children. So I wrote a series of 8 books and we started teaching, through my books. The school, when we started with 9 students. Today, we have 1,100 students. So this journey was again a big learning process. One, it was our baby. So another thing, I always tell all administrators is that a school is not a matter of profession. It's a matter of heart. If you feel for the school, if you feel it is yours, there is no way you cannot achieve success. So this is how, when the journey started and we started, running the school, a couple of things, I was a boss. So I knew that I could do what I thought I should be done. So I've experimented a lot. Most of us do not experiment. We're too scared to experiment. We are scared of new ideas. Jo upar se aa jata hai, we feel ki, it's best, it's easiest. But whenever you take up difficult ideas, I think you grow. So experimentation is the crux of it. You may go wrong. I'm not saying you always succeed, but you learn so much by experimenting, failing, and then relearning. So for an educationist, it's very, very important to learn along the way. Today also, I feel my whole success story has been because I'm such an avid learner. Anything new I must learn. So from this journey onwards, and we had a lot of problems with affiliation, because bureaucracy is, I think, the biggest hurdle in schools. All of you who run schools will know it's very easy to educate, but to get through all the bureaucratic red tape is very difficult. Now, when we had this affiliation process, I think what I had to go a couple of times to Delhi. I had to sit in offices. Though it was such a smooth thing to do, they could have actually, we had everything possible that was required. There was actually no hitch. But even then, it took so long. Then I learned that, to deal with bureaucracy, you have to show yourself as a learner, no matter how intelligent you are. You have to just go and say you know nothing, because the egos are big, and you have to kill your ego and just go and say, please, can you help? And that is where, people help. People become very, very giving when you are asking for help. So that's along this journey of, getting the 10th and the 12th affiliation, I learned very, very important lessons, because we had not dealt with civilian people at all. I knew nothing about this aspect of it. I went into these offices and faced all these hurdles. I learned a lot of life lessons. So all of you are struggling for this. Mind you, you don't have to bribe, you don't have to pay anybody. All you have to do is to ask. So please try this if any of you is facing this hurdle. People sitting there are nice people, but a little egoistic, that's all. So anyway, we got over these hurdles, and then came COVID. Now COVID, as far as I am concerned, was the most, I think, enlightening period of my life. It taught us many lessons. And as a school leader, I think it taught me a lot about people management. Now, when COVID occurred, I saw a lot of schools, going into panic, struggling. And all that kept us together. We were, I think, the most successful school in the city as far as teaching during COVID was concerned. Why? Because we had very good teamwork. So this people management skill is, I think, which gets you through any obstacle. How do you develop this teamwork and people management skills? One, your staff is your biggest asset. Like he just said, at that time, teachers, they had to be motivated. My teachers were working day and night. They forgot their own comfort. They forgot their homes, because they were, they're teachers from small cities. So they were not very good at technology. So during, after school hours, all their time was taken up by training. And we were having massive training sessions of 4 hours, 5 hours. Then they were submitting their work. They were working on the apps. They were giving it to us. So if a teacher is working 4 or 5 hours after school, I think we had to work about 10 to 12 hours, because we were getting inputs from the teachers, correcting and advising. So within a month, we were absolutely ready to teach. With all the apps, with all our technology intact, we got a lot of Wi-Fi into the school. We gave teachers, we told them to buy laptops. So it was a very smooth. After that, it was quite smooth sailing, and they started enjoying it a lot. And that is why I wrote this book, Rising to Challenges, an ode to teachers. Now, this my one gesture of appreciating them in print when, a book came on them, which they could never imagine. I think that developed a lot of trust in the school. That developed, for them, it was a big thing. And they worked doubly hard. So as administrators, as principals, your appreciation really matters to them. For sometimes they feel, how does it matter? They're doing the good work. They're supposed to do good work. Yes, but they're like, as far as you're concerned, they're like children. The children, want smileys and goods in their notebooks. Teachers want appreciation of their effort. So if you do appreciate them, they'll work doubly hard. So during COVID, I think this was the main thing that we had. We held on together and we worked very hard. Another thing that I have really thought has held me in good stead is a positive attitude. You ask me anything, I'll not say no. Later on, I might have to struggle. I might have to put across certain difficulties, but at least I try. So that is one thing, and a lot of people I have seen in life, first thing is they say nahi ho sakta hai. Now when you say nahi ho sakta hai, it will not happen. When you say okay, try karte hain, there are at least 60-70% chances that it will happen. And if you carry it through, it will happen. So this is one aspect I think I have also lived by it, and I tell my teachers also. I said nobody will say no. Let's see if it happens or not. But nobody to say no, it cannot happen. And that I think is the USP of our school. And teachers have imbibed it very, very well. So these kind of things, they sail you through difficult times. And according to audience sitting here, the ones I see, I feel that I think I have more numbers of experience as far as the audience that I see. So you have probably not been where I am in number of years, but I have been where you were so many years back. So my advice to you would be, one, just a positive attitude and a lot of dedication and determination. Once you decide you will do something, you will do it. So my life journey has been inspirational to others in feeling that if she can, why can't I? Because I was not educated in English. I've written 21 books in English. So if I can do it, why can't you? There's nothing exceptional about me at all. So from that point of view, I feel my journey has been inspirational. Secondly, I was not dealt, whatever I got in life was not what I wished for. And yet I made it to something that I've always wished for. Something of my own. Today, this school is my baby, and my soul rests in this school. So this is something that's given me so much of satisfaction. I had never dreamt of it. But because I made the most of whatever I got, today I have reached here. So, these are few things I would like to present to you. Any questions that you have, you may ask.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Yes, would love to have questions in the audience. Ma'am, I have one question that came to my mind. So, ma'am, you said that you experiment a lot, right? So, ma'am, any example you could give where you did an experiment, it worked out well?
Like this only, these terms have come in now. We've been following flip learning and experiential learning since 2010. We started the school in 2008. And we had very junior classes. So, like I used to tell them, I said, no teacher will, give direct questions. So, we've been experimenting with this. And whereas experiential learning is concerned also, all our teachers, when they start the session, they have something called a resource book. So they're supposed to put in a lot of activity work in the resource book and nothing copied from Google or anywhere else. What happens is when you sit with yourself and just imagine yourself to be a child, how would you like to learn? What are the things which will help you? I think that makes a good teacher. So in the beginning of the session, they are supposed to put in their resource book each chapter, how they are going to teach it, what are the innovative methods they are going to use. And they should not teach, most of the schools, what they do is, of teachers, it's a very easy thing to do. Go into the class, open the book, page number so and so. Today we will do this lesson. Now when you say today we will do this lesson, you're killing the curiosity of a whole class because they know what they're going to do. They should keep guessing what they're going to do. End of the class, they should, oh wow, we've learned this lesson. That it should be a discovery process. They should not know that they're doing lesson 4 and say, oh gosh, just imagine we finished lesson 4. So this kind of thing we experimented with. It was a struggle. It was not easy at all. I mean, it sounds very good, but it took me 4-5 years to get my teachers trained to this thought. Because they had studied in schools, they had taught in schools where it was just a normal thing to do. You just went with a book to class. So I should take away the books and say, okay, nobody will teach with a book. Go and give yourself to the class. Ask questions. Like I'm telling you in an audience like this also, when I say any questions, if an audience is thinking, that means a mind has stopped asking questions. As a student, I remember I used to ask a lot of questions, and I think my teachers got fed up of me. So maybe I have been a questioning mind myself, and I also realized when teachers answered my questions and satisfied me, what a thrill I got. So that is what I have given to the students also. Whereas flip learning, which I am a great advocate of, and I take sessions of flip learning for schools. I mean, to me, it's such a wonderful. Now, where did I get that? I'm an avid traveler. We travel a lot. So wherever we travel, I always go to these universities because I just love the atmosphere of universities. Now, if you see on all these foreign universities, you will see students doing things by themselves. Their libraries are full, their grounds are full, their, professors, they are having animated conversations with them. The whole atmosphere is very charged. In our schools, what we do is we go to a class, the students are sitting there from, say 8 to 2, and it's a slideshow going on of the teachers. One goes, another comes, one goes, another comes. Now, these are small children. They have so much in their minds, so much energy. And then we say they don't keep quiet. Why should a class be so quiet? They must be bubbling. So in a flip learning method, what you do is you don't even tell the child what you're going to teach. You just give them few ideas. If something happens, like in a science thing, if this happens, what will happen? Let's find out. So tomorrow, give them a few questions, find out answers. And give them a few resources where they can find out answers. Go to this channel, go to YouTube channel, go to your book. Give them the book also. Tell them, go to your book, find out. Now, when they come back, ask them, what did you find out? Some will come up. I'm not saying all, a lot of them will sham. But what will happen? What happens is, over a period of time, these students, 10 students who have done nothing, they have not found out anything. They realize they're missing out in class because the students who have found out are having all the fun. They're having discussions, the teachers animated with them, the teachers listening to them. So, these students also feel, let's find out something and be involved in this whole process. So gradually these students will come around. We are very impatient. We want results fast. Marks kyun nahi aaye? It doesn't happen like that. When you teach by these methods, the results come, but they come enormously, but a little late. And gradually people, join in. Now students have started enjoying this method of learning because they're discovering. Now, if a student comes up with a certain discovery, now also, what happens is, if you give one question, everybody has gone to different resources. Sometimes a student might come up with something you also don't know. So, when you appreciate a student like that, oh gosh, you've come up with this. Even I couldn't find out. Can you imagine what a student feels? So this is what motivates the students to find out and discover. And they'll never forget these lessons. Now for this kind of a teaching, what you need is a strong language base. Because they cannot write the answers you expect out of them. So they will write in their own words. You have to give them marks for their ideas and not their language. So now what we follow in school is that we cut marks for language only in language papers. We don't cut marks for language in science, social studies, maths papers. Because if a student has been able to express the idea though I teach English, but in broken English also. We are giving marks for the idea, not the language. So from that point of view, they are encouraged to write on their own. The worst thing we can do to a student is to encourage the student to learn by rote. Because, as the world is progressing, what are we teaching the student? When parents come to me or teachers come to me, ma'am, he does not write. It doesn't matter, because the world he is going to face, he will not need to write. He should know how to type on the computer. So today, if he does not, you see, we are looking at 10 standard marks. It might, all of you, you probably think that, what is she talking? In a couple of years, you will see this whole, system change. Now, if you go abroad in the schools and all, there's no grade writing. They submit their papers online. They submit their, original thought articles online. So this is going to the future, going to be our future also. We must train our children to do what the computer cannot do. Now, what cannot it do? It cannot think on its own. You have to feed something into it. So our students have to feed something into the computer. They must be thinkers. They must be able to extrapolate ideas and generate new ideas to feed into the computer. Why must a child learn tables? Because he's got a calculator. He can do it with a calculator. Now, a lot of people say it increases memory. It increases memory also when you think of ideas to put into the computer. When you get original ideas. When you use the time to read so much more. You're so much more aware. So, we have to change the whole perspective of teaching and learning according to the world we are going to face. We may like it, we may not. But today technology is ruling us, and tomorrow it will rule us completely. This AI, when it takes over, all this will not be needed. So we are preparing our children for that level. Now when a child becomes an engineer or a doctor, he does not have to refer to his books or what he studied. Today you type anything on Google and you'll get an answer. So why does he have to learn up that much? But yes, he must be able to innovate. He must be able to produce something that nobody has done. He must learn personal relationships to develop emotional quotient in that same time. Time is limited. So if we keep doing all these things in schools, where do we have time to emotionally connect with the children? Now these flip learning methods also connect the teacher to the child a lot. Because a teacher is not teaching, is not giving. A teacher is discussing. So teachers will become more open-minded also. So these are the things, which we have experimented on. Experiential learning is another thing. We have project-based learning. We have a separate period for it, for every week. And we have proper display exams for it. Exams, because we are so psyched to test an exam. Unless you have an exam, parents don't take it seriously. So we mark the children on projects. Now projects are not making something that the parents make and display. Projects are anything innovative. The child has to explain it. The child has to argue about it. Other children question it. So develop questioning minds. That is the best gift you can give your children.
I think you beautifully summarized, right? I think developing questioning minds is the best gift you can give your children. I think that is a beautiful takeaway for all of us here. And once again, ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think the biggest takeaway again for me is how you keep things so simple, right? It's just about having a positive attitude. I think everyone here in this room is probably aware of it. But again, the simplest ones are not the easiest as well. It's definitely difficult to do the simpler ones. But once again, ma'am, thank you so much for taking us through your journey, and thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.